In the golden era of sail, speed was everything. And among the giants of that age, Champion of the Seas stood out as a ship built not just for beauty, but for raw performance. Designed by the famed American naval architect Donald McKay and launched in 1854, this full-rigged clipper was one of the most impressive sailing vessels ever to cut through the waves. While she may not carry the fame of some of her counterparts today, in her time, Champion of the Seas was a record setter and a symbol of human ambition driving engineering to its edge. Built in East Boston, the ship was commissioned by James Baines Co. for the Black Ball Line, a company deeply involved in carrying mail, cargo, and passengers between Liverpool and Australia. Measuring 252 feet in length with a beam of 45 feet, Champion of the Seas was no small player. She displaced around 2,447 tons and was heavily built for both speed and capacity, a combination that made her uniquely valuable on the long and often rough passage to Australia. What really set Champion of the Seas apart, though, was her performance. In December 1854, on a run from Liverpool to Melbourne, she reportedly achieved a 24-hour run of 465 nautical miles. That was, at the time, the fastest day's run ever recorded by a sailing ship. While this figure has been debated, it remained the accepted record for years. For a vessel operating in the age before steamships dominated global trade, this kind of speed was no small feat. It meant shorter voyages, fewer risks, and bigger profits. But the ship just wasn't about numbers. McKay's design pushed the limits of what a sailing ship could do. With a sharp hull, fine lines, and immense sail area, Champion of the Seas was purpose-built to extract maximum speed from wind alone. She was lean and aggressive, with 3 masts and full rigging that allowed her to ride hard winds at a pace most ships couldn't match. Sailors respected her, even feared her at times. Operating such a vessel demanded skill and nerve. She was fast, but she could also be unforgiving. The route to Australia was no pleasure cruise. Ships faced heavy weather rounding the Cape of Good Hope and vast stretches of open ocean where storms were frequent and unpredictable. In this setting, Champion of the Seas became a reliable tool for the Black Ball Line's goals, serving passengers and carrying mail across one of the most demanding commercial routes of the time. She ferried immigrants bound for new lives in Australia, many of whom were escaping poverty or chasing opportunity. Her interiors reflected the dual purpose of such ships, cargo and comfort. The ship carried several classes of passengers, from wealthy clients to those traveling in steerage. For the higher-paying travelers, the accommodations were reasonably comfortable. Wood-paneled cabins and a saloon for dining, and other modest luxuries of long-distance sea travel. For others, conditions were cramped and often miserable. Yet, the promise of a new start made the hardship bearable. Despite her strengths, Champion of the Seas did not have a long career. She was withdrawn from active service by the mid-1860s as steamships grew more reliable and profitable, gradually taking over the long routes once dominated by sailing clippers. By 1877, she was hulked in Liverpool, her days of racing across oceans long behind her. Still, her influence lasted. Ships like Champion of the Seas pushed designers to rethink what was possible with sail power. They forced improvements in navigation, shipbuilding, and crew training. She was part of a brief but intense period where speed ruled and the wind was everything. The fact that her 24-hour speed record held for decades is a sign of how far ahead she was of her time. Today, Champion of the Seas is mostly forgotten outside maritime circles. Few models remain and even fewer records. But for those who study clipper ships or the mid-19th century migration boom, she remains a high watermark. She represents the edge of an age when canvas and timber drove global trade. She was not just a workhorse. She was a racer, a carrier, and a machine designed with a single purpose: to cross oceans faster than any before her. If you walked her decks at sea, you'd hear the groaning of the wood under strain, the snap of the sails, the endless rush of wind and water. You'd see men climbing high above the deck in freezing winds, and passengers clinging to whatever comfort they could find. She was both a lifeline and a risk, but above all, she was fast. Faster than most imagined a ship could be, and in that speed, she found her place in history.